John!
What?
Red 7!
I don't know what Red 7 means.
Hot route!
I don't. What is hot route? Will you just go stand on the other side, please?
Down!
Come on.
Ready! Down! Set! Hut! 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 Hut!
Hit me! Booyah! That's what we call a sack lunch. Nom, 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 nom.
It's time for the Soonerscoop.com postgame show presented by Eskridge Lexus in Oklahoma City. Eskridge Lexus is the official travel partner of Soonerscoop.com podcasts. Now, here's your road crew, Carrie, Eddie, and Bob, wrapping up all the action and reaction from this week's game.
All right, welcome back. It is the Eskridge Lexus Postgame Podcast, where Eddie and George are live from Lawrence, Kansas, the site of one of the tougher losses in recent memory as OU falls to Kansas for the first time since 1997. Something that Bob Stoops never did. It was yet another first that we get into the post-Bob Stoops era, losing 2 games in a row, losing to Kansas, but the Sooners drop it 38-33. Had every opportunity to win a game that they probably shouldn't have. They really had no business being in. But let's welcome in the guys who have talked to the players and the coaches after it's over. Eddie and George, guys, welcome to the disaster that is this Eskridge Lexus Postgame Podcast.
It was a shit show, Carrie.
Happy to be here, though. Damn glad to be here.
It was really bad, and it's still pouring. It is pouring rain outside. We're about to get soaking wet to get to the car.
Well, one of us is about to get wet. The other one is about to get wetter.
I'm gonna take the fall here and sprint to the car so that because Eddie was out in the weather all day today.
I was gonna say make Bob go get the car, but he's got his own ride.
Yeah, it was horrible, Carrie. It was not Morgantown. I'm not ready to say that it was Morgantown 2.0, just in terms of being down on the field and just getting sopping wet the entire day. But I thought it was pretty miserable. It was about as miserable as Oklahoma's performance today.
Well, you would have thought that it was raining ice the entire time, the way that Jeff Lebby did not allow Dylan Gabriel to throw the football. I mean, just on the day.
What the fuck is going on?
I don't know. With the pod or with the play calling?
The play calling.
Okay, you were so alarmed, you made me wonder like something's wrong with the pod. No, I mean,
no.
Look, Dylan Gabriel threw the ball 19 times on the day. They ran the ball 55 times.
Carrie, seven of his 19 passes were on the final drive when they absolutely had to throw the ball. It made no sense.
You would have thought if you just looked at the box score today, you would have thought that they were playing in a driving snowstorm. I know that it was raining. It was sloppy. It did rain heavy at times, but you can't tell me that the weather was one of the reasons that they didn't want to put the ball in the air. Do they not have trust in any of these wide receivers anymore?
Well, and how about all season, Dylan Gabriel, all he's done all season late in games is come up in clutch moments throwing the football. It was baffling to me. Even with the Ethan Downs interception, they come back, and I get it. You want to run the football, burn some clock, but Tawi Walker goes down. At least run something out in the flats. Let Farouk make a play up the field, or Drake Stoops or something to get some sort of yardage. It was unbelievably. It was
well,
scary.
Guess what though, George? Let me jump in. If they would have done that and thrown out to the flat, they would have just continued to force Gavin Freeman down their throats.
Sure. I couldn't believe they didn't get the ball in Farouk or Drake Stoops' hands on that final drive to try and get a first down. It made no sense. Kansas knew exactly what they were going to do. They went to Javonte Barnes, who hasn't played in like 6 weeks, and all of a sudden he's the guy. They're like, he's going to go get us the first down. I don't know, man. It was one of the worst offensive play calling games that I've covered, and I covered the Denver Broncos last year with Nathaniel Hackett. I mean, it is up there. I mean, it was quite terrible. You talk about the second half, the first 3 possessions where they run the 3rd and 3 sweep to Gavin Freeman makes no sense. The next possession, Savion Byrd gets the unsportsmanlike penalty, just a stupid play. And then the next one, they don't even have a running back out there. They hand it off to Farouk and he fumbles. Like, what are they? Like, it it was astonishing how bad the play calling was today, in my opinion.
Have you seen? Okay, so Kansas actually puts passing chart reports in their post game stats. That'd be awesome to have all the time. Oklahoma, on passes over 20 plus yards, they only attempted 3 passes of 20 yards or more today, and passes from 10 to 19 yards, they only attempted 4 of those passes. The majority of their stuff was 0 to 9 yards. Let's see, 6 passes. So, I mean, there weren't a lot of passes, but my God, I mean, you haven't played Brennan Thompson the entire year, and he makes one of the biggest catches of the season?
Yeah, and where was he all game? Where was the pushing the ball down the field all game? And I get it, teams are doing some different things to keep them from doing that, and that's what this team wants its identity to be, is throw the ball down the field. But Jeff Lebby has to do a better job of finding ways to move the football, and it's just so bad at times. It's just that they dig themselves a hole, and then they just sputter. It just seems like the most inopportune times. I don't get. I wish I had an answer. I don't have an answer.
I've said this, Eddie, about Jeff Lebby. You guys know this in the War Room several times. Jeff Lebby calls plays like he spent his entire career playing at shit kicker state. Like he tries to get so cute instead of just running the offense. Just all the stuff to Gavin Freeman today. I mean, Jalil Farouk fumbles the ball because he's playing running back. I mean, it's like I don't get it.
When you have unleashed, quote unquote, Javonte Barnes, like, just give him the ball. Why do you have a running back or a wide receiver back there? Running into the middle of traffic? Like, he's not used to that.
Well, here's the thing. Like, he's been criticized for not running the ball enough. Now he runs the ball too much. And it was almost like he lost faith in Dylan Gabriel once he threw the pick 6 to start the game. And then he went into his own shell as an offensive coordinator, like, oh, I can't call any plays down the field because of the conditions, and Dylan might throw another pick 6, and then what happens? It was such a defensive game plan from an offensive standpoint. They were trying to do, in the way I look at it, I think the way that most fans look at it, they were trying not to make any mistakes instead of just letting it loose and knowing that you have one of the better quarterbacks in the country back there. That, guys, when he made that throw to Nick Anderson late in the game over the middle, I thought to myself, okay, this is Texas all over again. He's ready to go. What did they do? They ran 3 straight plays that got a total of like 6 yards after that. And one of them was the keeper, the called run to Dylan Gabriel. But he ran two, he let the backs run the next 2 plays, and they went for almost nothing.
Yeah, it's so frustrating to watch because it's just like you see them make these plays. They're like, why can't they do that more often? Why can't? And maybe it's I don't know. Maybe it's harder than what we all think, but I think it just needs to be simplified in a lot of ways. And look, I think they miss Andrell Anthony. That's very clear. They just don't have a guy like him right now. And
how do we know that though? I mean, they never throw the ball down the field anymore.
No, that's my point. It's like we don't know. And then, they don't have a tight end that does anything in the passing game. And then I don't know what the hell they're doing on the offensive line. I mean,
it's like line changes.
Like why is Caden Green
line changes?
Why is Caden Green not starting the game? Like he's been so good the last few weeks. You put Bird in there and he was not any good. And then Rouse is clearly banged up. Jacob Sexton, every scoring drive today, it was Caden Green and Jacob Sexton at left guard and left tackle. I don't understand why they went back to Bird and Rouse to start the second half. It made no sense.
It's eskridgelexus.com. Go check them out. They've got the new TXs that have just come in, the new luxury third-row SUV. They look really cool. But the Lexus TX SUV, almost here, Lexus' biggest SUV they've ever built, and it's arriving now here in late October. TX is perfect family SUV for hauling around all your stuff to the next sporting event, tailgate, road trip, whatever. Mention that you're a Sooner Scoop subscriber, and Eskridge Lexus will offer you a special discount on any new or pre-owned vehicle. So, as always, they never have bogus extra charges like dock fees or force you to buy added accessories that you never wanted in the first place. So, visit eskridgelexus.com, give them a call. Tell them Sooner Scoop sent you, and they will take care of you. Yeah, there's clearly, to me, I mean, last year we were critical of Brent Venables for game management and just overall just dysfunction. To me, it's falling more on Jeff Lebby's shoulders. I mean, I'm wondering if he's ready for this type of job. I hate to say that, but that's where we are. I mean, he was at Southeast, whatever. Then he was at UCF, and then he was at Ole Miss. I mean,
and who was calling the plays at Ole Miss?
And Lane Kiffin was calling the plays. So I mean, it's like it's almost like he's learning on the job, guys.
I just don't understand why they do all that bullshit that they do, like the end arounds and stuff, when you are running the ball straight down their throat. And I love Gavin, but it's very obvious that he is adjusting to not being faster than everybody. This isn't 3A, and it's not Gavin's fault.
Yeah, I mean, it's disjointed. It's not. Here's the problem, guys. It's not improving. Like, we all knew going into this game, like, this team has to continue to get better if they're really seriously going to be in the playoff conversation.
Yeah. Well,
and they're regressing offensively. The last two games are a regression.
I think the joke's on us a little bit. I mean, this team isn't ready to go win a college football playoff or compete for a college football playoff.
They're not even ready to run through to win the Big 12.
No.
Did you see what Baylor did, or not Baylor? What Texas did today with the backup quarterback?
Sure.
I mean,
just look at, and it could boil down to that you turn the ball over 3 times, and you have how many yards of fucking penalties did they have today? I mean, my God, giving Kansas 30 yards.
No, the 30 yards in one play, and then another 15 on that drive. They had 45 yards in unsportsmanlike penalties on that drive. By the way, So you guys are at the press conference. We should probably talk to this for people that haven't listened or haven't gotten around to it yet. But the explanation from Brent, what I could tell was it was a coach on his staff. He wouldn't name it, but it wasn't him that got the 15-yard penalty.
Yeah. Carrie, I'm going to send you the video right now, and you can tell me who you think it is, but I have a pretty good idea who it is. I think it was Bill Beatenbow.
But it was a defensive play. It was a defensive play.
I know. And I think that's what pissed off Brent so much. I'm sending the video right now over to you. And you can see the way that he looks down at where the offensive coaches are at the time. And he already Brent had. It just, I don't know. That was about as mad as I've seen Brent Venables outwardly at a coach on the sidelines before.
Yeah, I'm trying to watch
it. It was a key point in the game.
So is this video of right after the penalty?
Yes.
Okay, so they throw the flag. Brent has this confused look on his face.
He's looking down, and you can see Bill there on the sidelines. He throws his arms out.
Yeah, he's walking down. He gives a death stare. Yep, it looked like it was Bill because he throws his arms out like, I'm sorry. And then Brent shakes his head, and then he just starts walking away from him.
And mind you, this is a play after, I believe, the Kendall Dolby unnecessary roughness that, the guy wasn't down, but he did slam him to the ground. I get it. OU fans would be bitching and complaining if it was the other way around. They would want the unsportsmanlike. It probably was at the end of the day, but you just can't do that. Like, they have little mistakes where you just can't do that if you're going to be a really, really good football team.
Nice to see Justin Broyles yelling at everyone in the middle of that.
Yeah, he helped a lot today. I don't know, Kerry. I want to go back to the Jeff Lebby thing because I wrote a pretty scathing gamer on Jeff Lebby.
I think you've actually been taken off of the Christmas card list with the Lebby family.
But I think you're right, Kerry. I don't think I'm starting to think he's not ready for this. And what I mean by that is I think he's probably a above average offensive coordinator in college football, but for a team that has college football playoff aspirations, it's just not good enough. And I wonder if, Brent realizes that, after the game. I asked him straight up, what's your confidence level in the offense and what's going on over there? And he deflected and immediately said, well, I should have called a timeout on the 4th and 6. on Kansas's final drive. And I'm like, okay, like, sure, maybe you should have, but like, the reality is the offense didn't get it done today. I don't,
he's saying he's basically saying we all made mistakes.
Yeah, and I get that. That's what the head coach is supposed to do. But like, I wonder behind closed doors what conversations are being had about just the offense's ineptitude, because this is 2 weeks in a row where the offense inability to move the ball when they had to. Last week it should have cost them the game. This week it actually did.
I mean, there's a lot of things that cost them that game. I mean, guys, they should have lost this game by 3 touchdowns. They really 100%. Should have. I mean, this was a terrible performance on both. The secondary, once again, and look, if Peyton Bowen's healthy, he's got to be a bigger factor out there. I mean, Billy Bowman did come up with a big pick, and then Ethan Downs comes up with a pick. So they made some plays on the day, but
that's the crazy thing. You had 2 quote unquote game-saving type interceptions, and they weren't able
squandered.
Weren't able to do anything with it
because of the offensive play calling.
Sure, 100%.
Or just the offensive plan in general.
I mean, if you would have told me that after Ethan Downs picks that ball off, that all you got to do is get 1 first down, and you ran the ball, not only did you not pick up a first down, you went backwards, like you said, George, in the instant reaction.
Yeah, they went lost 1 yard, then lost another yard, and then I think got like 4 yards, and that's where I was like, I would have thrown the ball on that 3rd and long. I just at that point, like, you're just, it was stupid. But you're right, Kerry, on defense. Like, I'm at the point where Peyton Bowen is better than Key Lawrence and Reggie Pearson. Like, he should start. And it's the same with, you know what? I think Jaron Kanik at some point is probably going to be a really good linebacker for Oklahoma.
He's not there yet, no.
He missed way too many tackles today. Like, Kip Lewis came in for Danny Stutzman.
He's just so good.
I think if Danny can play next week, I'm starting Danny and Kip Lewis. Like, those are your 2 best linebackers. Maybe even Kobe McKenzie. Like, Kobe McKenzie, I thought came in and played well. Like, I just don't see it from Kanik right now. And it's gotten to the point where it's like, you just have to play your best players. And I think that's the same case on the offense.
Defensive line get manhandled today?
At times, I thought the defensive ends played pretty well, but interior, yeah.
I mean, they got gashed in the running game. I mean, right up the middle. I
think they're exhausted. What was the time of possession today?
It's pretty equal. Here's the thing. There are no stats. The turnovers 3-3. So
28-50 for Oklahoma, 31-10 for Kansas.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's significant.
No, Kansas wasn't good on third down.
Here's
either,
what's significant, and I put this
on 3rd down.
I put this in the
2 for 10 on 3rd down for Oklahoma.
That's what I put in the stats for the final post on the Scoop account. 2 for 10 3rd down conversions. Kansas was 4 for 14 though, so it's kind of a wash. Red zone stuff was pretty similar. Turnovers were similar. Everything was similar. It just shows you OU's undisciplined nature today was really the difference in Kansas being in that game. I mean, and the offensive play calling. It just...
Yeah. I mean, it as complicated as sometimes we make this, it's pretty cut and dry today.
Really, the biggest thing is that 110 penalties or 11, whatever it was, 11 penalties for 101 yards.
Yeah, and you're digging yourself out of a hole basically from the first quarter on. I mean, even though, and George and I talked about this in the instant reaction, when you finally took the lead 21-14, you had opportunity to kind of step on the throat, take a little bit out of the crowd, lack thereof because of the weather, and they just weren't able to do that. And
when they came back from the lightning storm, it was unbelievable. I mean, they scored 21, unanswered points.
Well, they got a break too on the Kansas muffin the kickoff, but
right.
I just.
And by the way, Marcus Stripling being in that position to field that kickoff, how does that happen?
And the only reason I say, he's been good, I bet that's something that Kansas scouted out and said, hey, if we get into this situation, let's pooch punt it or pooch kick it to the defensive end that's back there. But OU also has to know Kansas was kicking into a pretty strong wind there. Yeah. They're not going to get it to the end zone, regardless of how big that kid's leg is. They had to know that was going to be somewhat on the table, right? Am I crazy for thinking that?
Farouk was in a dead sprint to try and get to it, but he just wasn't going to get to it in time. And he actually could have recovered the fumble. He was right there, but it squirted out.
But it's also just the small things, guys. Like it's the details, like running guys on and off the field on punt and punt return. I mean, that cost them a timeout in the third quarter. Like in which, by the way, stupid timeout. Just take the delay of game. And it's just sloppiness where it's like things are so undisciplined at times that like it goes back to last year, Kerry, that like they lost so many games because of just terrible, undisciplined play, which ultimately that falls on the coaches. Like my takeaway from today is that a large part of this loss is not on the players. It's on the coaches. Like I am like fully on board on saying this loss is 100% on the coaching staff today.
Well, and I think it even goes back to what's gone on with the running back rotation. I mean, you suspend Tawi Walker for, I'm sure, legitimate reasons, and then he becomes your best running back again when you don't start him, and then all of a sudden it's like we only play Tawi Walker, and Gavin Sawchuk again, who's a very capable runner, kind of just goes to the wayside.
I'm still hung up on this idea that last week I'm having conversations with people before the game that, sounds like they're going to just shelve Javonte Barnes for the rest of the year. And then all of a sudden on Monday, he's taking one practice reps with the ones. Did he just get magically healthy over the course of 3 days?
Yeah.
Or is it a mismanagement of the running back room?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm leaning towards that more than I am thinking that he just hasn't been able to bounce back from a toe surgery. It's mismanagement of the running back room, and I think the offensive line, it's been a mismanagement up front too.
There's a lot of people angry with Bill Bedenbaugh after this game. And he's a notorious tinkerer with the offensive line, but never this deep into the season.
It's week 8.
Yeah.
Figure it out. Like, you got to stick with a group and go.
I mean, Troy Everett was, they would have been down to like their third right guard at some point today when Troy Everett ran out there, right?
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe that was the flu because we heard that was a position that got hit. We can talk about that now. Maybe they didn't get to practice that much this week. I mean, certainly Andrew Rame was one of the guys that was hit really hard, but you didn't really notice anything from him today. But maybe it was, Troy Everett as well and Caden Green and Savion Byrd. I mean, Savion Byrd's thing was just like, that can't happen. And it's like you saw that happen with the personal foul with him today, and you're like, okay, that makes sense why Bill doesn't want to play him or doesn't give him opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, it was a dumb penalty, and but I don't even know why Savion's in the game. If McCade Mattower is healthy and playing.
But George, they were great in the fourth quarter against UCF with Savion in the game.
Yeah, but Caden Green has been so good at left guard. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm sorry. Like, if McCade is better than Savion, and so is Caden Green. So why is Savion playing over either of them?
Well, McCade wasn't available last week, so that's.
I know that, but I'm saying this week, I almost just swallowed my gum. This week,
I almost had to give you the Heimlich maneuver.
This week, I'm yelling. This week, McCade is healthy.
We might get kicked out of here today.
I hope we do. This was just
wow.
It was fucking terrible, man. It was terrible.
Is that our first F-ball on a Sooner Scoop podcast from you?
Yes. I'm sorry, Mom, and she'll probably agree with me. She knows they played like shit today.
Oh, man.
If I can say 2 positives out of the day.
Can you? Really? I want to hear this.
Tawi Walker was really, really good. I thought he ran the ball great.
And he's hurt.
I mean,
here's
the
thing going forward.
Knocked out of him and getting up every time.
Here's the thing going forward. They are really banged up heading to Stillwater.
Yeah, I think the Danny Stutzman thing is very concerning. He came back in for one play after he
and realized he couldn't go.
And basically realized that he couldn't come back in. And I think that the linebacker depth is good, but taking Danny Stutzman off the field, I mean, completely changes this defense.
And it took them a while to recover from losing Danny. I mean, that defense started falling apart. And you can Kip Lewis is a great player, but he's not the guy that everybody is looking to pre-snap like Danny Stutzman is. Like, they lost their anchor there, and it sent them reeling a little bit.
It also doesn't sound good about Gentry Williams. After the game, I asked Brent, and he said that he doesn't think it's long-term, and that was his answer to what's Gentry Williams' situation. But that, to me, is still not hopeful.
It was weird, too, because he went through pregame, he suited up, just didn't play. And, I think that we can probably talk about this now, too. I mean, we had heard on Monday, basically, that Gentry had a knee injury, not even at practice. It was during a workout. So I don't, and Kenai Walker had some I think that was his side, though, that they ended up hitting on at the end of the game.
And that's another thing, guys. I mean, 4th and 6, those critical 4th downs. It seems like teams hit the jackpot on that down. It becomes such a critical down for OU. It's like they lose their mind. I mean, what was it? It was 4th and 1 against UCF, I think, and they was that when they got a touchdown? Like one of their big long touchdowns. There was a 4th down play.
I don't remember.
There's been a lot of bad football.
Which touchdown?
Against UCF. I don't know which one, but I believe maybe it was that.
It was
the one that Woody blew.
That wasn't a 4th down because that was like an 89-yarder, right?
Yeah, but there was some 4th down play that they converted.
Well, they converted the 3rd and 19 or 3rd and 18, and then they converted the 4th and 10 on the to cut the score to 2.
Yeah.
Before the 2-point conversion.
That's becoming a theme. And it's troubling.
Yeah.
Here's the thing with this team going forward, and I would usually try to find the positive spin here, and to a degree, I do think a lot of the stuff we saw today is pretty fixable. I don't know if they're going to actually fix it because they haven't the last couple weeks, but if you told us going into Bedlam before the season that OU'd be 7-1, I think we'd all be like, that's pretty good. But the reality is the way they lost the game today, coming off of really a very similar performance a week ago where they just survived and escaped a game that they should have lost, that's the part that's concerning, is because they didn't go and fix a lot of the issues that they had a week ago.
Yeah, those struggles a week ago didn't seem to hit home with this team.
No, and that's the part where it's like, well, if they can't fix those things, I still think that they should beat West Virginia, BYU, and TCU. Like, those are games that I just don't think those teams are very good. And I think Kansas is a pretty good football team, but they'll go get beat in Stillwater next week if they play like this today. And they might get beat pretty bad if they play like this today.
I'll say this. You look at that defense just individually, not having Stutzman in the second half. There's only 2 guys I look at on the entirety of the defense where I say, those guys played their asses off. One was Deshaun McCullough, and the other was Kip Lewis, and he came in halfway through the game. I mean,
play more.
Kip Lewis was second in the team in tackles today.
Yeah, he needs to play. He needs to play more.
Well,
bottom
4th
line,
technically, because Canick, Bowman, and McCullough. That's a George thing. Got me. They each had 6, and then Kip Lewis had 5. I mean, Kendall Dolby was up and down today.
Losing Justin Harrington just was a brutal blow, I think, for this team, too.
Just the cheetah position overall.
Yeah, but any team worth a shit, George, I mean, they're going to overcome a big loss like that.
No, I know. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying, that's why I'm saying it's a big loss, because they did lose him.
Yeah, I mean, I look at Danny Stutzman as a big loss if he's out for weeks.
Well, yeah, no shit. I mean, he's a Buckus Award type player. I mean, yeah, it's a massive loss.
I'd just say that's one that's going to be difficult to overcome. I mean, and look, Kendall Dolby is not Justin Harrington. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just trying to say they've gotten enough production out of that position to not have their defense suck.
Yeah.
And I think Kip Lewis is the best guy that you could possibly have to replace a Danny Stutzman, but he's still not the guy that leads the entire defense.
If Danny Stutzman can't play next week, who are you starting at the 2 linebacker spots? Because I'm at the point where I'm starting Kobe McKenzie and Kip Lewis.
You might have to start Kobe McKenzie just because he brings some heft. And I don't trust Jaron Canick to just go to town stopping Ollie Gordon all day.
Exactly. I think Kobe McKenzie's your better bet against what you're going against.
Dave got it. I mean, look, there's one. We just have to say it again. This is a team right now with problems. And the last 2 weeks are troubling. And now they're probably going to they're definitely going to face a team that's better than these last 2 teams that they played in Oklahoma State.
Did what we watch against Texas, was that just like a fluke?
I think that
Holy
something
shit.
of it was just the spirit of the Cotton Bowl. I mean, everybody elevates their play when you go down there, and they played really well. I think that that's what the frustrating thing is that you go, that's kind of what that ceiling is, and they've taken steps back each week they've gone out onto the field here over the last 3.
By the way, I it's so weird to put this in a sports podcast, but it's a really huge. Did you guys get this alert just now?
Yeah, from TMZ.
Yes. Chandler has died. Matthew Perry.
No way.
Drowned to death. Yeah.
No, that's super sad.
He was in his home. It was at his home. He must have just got pilled up and drowned in his bathtub or something.
It's awful.
You saw that last Friends thing, didn't you? The reunion hit that they had when he was just zonked out of his mind. I thought he was pretty close to circling the drain. No pun intended because he drowned, but no. Anyway, no, I'm sorry. Sorry to derail the pod there, but that's a pretty big
think
deal.
That it can't be any more down than we are right now. So
just talk
rest
about
in
everybody's childhood dying.
Rest in peace.
So yeah, Oklahoma State, Bedlam. It's gonna be really. OU fans, I feel bad for you because I think OSU's going to take care of Cincinnati just fine. You're going to have to endure a lot of chirping this week.
Yeah,
and maybe that's good for this. Maybe that's good for this group of football players.
Oh, they're right back to where they usually are at this time of the year, where you're batting down the hatches. You've had a loss. Everybody's going to say, "Yeah, it was good for us. Yeah, we're going to learn from it. It's going to wake some people up that maybe had gotten complacent." And who knows? Who knows what's going to happen next week?
But you were asking about the Texas thing, Eddie, and here's what I watched a lot of that BYU game sitting in here. Texas has a lot of talent on that roster, and OU went out there and hit them in the mouth. Probably, and OU showed in that game that yes, they have a lot of talent too, including a quarterback, including some receivers. I mean, especially on defense, all the plays they made. But ever since that loss, it's like all that talent has not. It's like they've accepted, okay, we're good now. I don't think they've truly accepted we have to be better than we are. They say that, and because that's what the coaches tell them all the time is you haven't arrived, you haven't done anything yet. But I don't think they believed it.
Well, there's still some residue, if you will, from years past and a very, very terrible season a year ago. I think that myself was a little bit naive to think that, everything's been fixed because you went and beat Texas and you're 7-0 going up to Lawrence. It's not that easy to just eliminate a year of just absolute terrible football from this program.
Yeah. I mean, they're not even a year removed from 6-7. I mean, here's the thing that probably hurts OU fans a little bit is you watch where Florida State is right now. I mean, they looked awesome today. And they look like a team. That's where OU should be, and they're not even anywhere close to that right now.
But that's not. I mean, I don't know if that's fair to say because how long has Norvell been at Florida State? Look, this thing's
they went through some years of suck.
Yeah, this thing's. I still look now. If they go and they lose the rest of the games, right, and they finish the season 7-5, then this was.
Well, shit. If that happens, you're all the way back to where we were at the beginning of the year, where you're wondering, can Brent Venables get this thing done?
Even if they're 8-4, 9-3, I think you're still wondering that a little bit, but. I think we need to let it play out before we're like, this is just, look, again, They're 7-1, and I'm not going to sit here and be a sunshine pumper because I think they have a lot of issues. I don't know if they can fix them, but if they can go win next week, I still think there's a very good chance they're playing in Arlington.
No, I mean, that's possible. All I'm saying, George, is at the end of last year, they were neck and neck with Florida State, and Florida State's taken off because they built that program listen, hold on. So they built that program, and yeah, they did go through some lean years.
Wake Forest is awful, Gary.
Yeah, but they've beaten Clemson, they've beaten LSU.
But
Clemson's awful.
How much stock are we putting into the fucking Cheez-It Bowl?
You don't think that Florida State's one of the top 4 teams without question in the country right now?
No.
Wow.
I don't know if they are or not, but you're comparing Oklahoma to Florida State from the Cheez-It Bowl a year ago. Like that just
and now they're what I'm saying is now they're one of the top 4 teams in the country and they look like it.
Yeah, but I don't care that Oklahoma played Florida State close in that game last year. That means nothing to me.
What I'm saying is when fans look at it, if you just listen, that they went toe-to-toe with Florida State. They were both similar teams. They won that game basically because they completed a pass on Justin Burrows at the end of the game, which they probably would have completed that against anybody. It was a great pass. But you come into the season and OU fans look at Florida State and they say, okay, that's where they are. We played them at the end of last year, so OU needs to be there right with them. And they're not.
That's unrealistic, though, isn't it?
There's too much roster turnover. There's so many external factors to sit there and compare that. I think that's an unfair comparison. And sure, I'm sure fans will look at it that way, but I put zero stock into that.
I don't know why you guys object to that so much. It's just a comparison that everyone will make naturally.
With OU and Florida State?
The progression of both those programs this year, side by side with each other.
I don't think that I understand it,
Okay.
I guess is what I would say.
We'll just move on then. So
I think we're all just we're just a little all on edge.
They squeaked out a win against Boston College this year, 31-29.
I think we can all say they've gotten better, though.
Florida State, I don't know if they're playing anybody good.
I mean,
Clemson's terrible. Virginia Tech's awful. Syracuse should fire their head coach. They got their ass kicked on Thursday by Virginia Tech. I think Florida State's good. Don't get me wrong.
I'm pulling up their schedule.
I got it right here.
They beat LSU.
Now they've over the last 3 weeks they played really well. I can't dispute that. I mean, 41.
And that's all I'm saying. They beat Duke 38-20.
Without Riley Leonard though, and Duke got their ass kicked today, or they were getting their ass kicked by Louisville.
They had Riley Leonard for some of that game.
What year is Mike Norvell in? This is a program that's had to be built over time. Like I just don't think it's a fair comparison.
Well, what's not fair is that they got the Keon Coleman kid from LSU, who's a stud.
Yeah.
And OU doesn't have a receiver like that.
I also still believe OU wins today with Andrew Anthony.
And by the way, Florida State has great running backs.
Yeah, I don't think that one wide receiver changes anything because does that complete like this? It was Andrell Anthony, who we didn't know what to expect from in August. He's that big of a difference in OU's passing game that they can't throw the ball downfield?
Yeah, no, I would say that that's bullshit.
Yeah, I'm okay. Yes, true. I agree, but I still think they win today with him.
I mean, yeah.
Well, are they going to throw it down the field? I mean,
sure.
I don't know.
It's dependent on the play caller to actually attack. Like, just where is this team overall does not have an attacking mentality. I just don't see it. It's more of it's kind of reverting back to last year, which is, can we hold on? Like, there's no extending the lead with this team.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
And even against Texas, they didn't do that.
No,
I mean you had opportunity to step on the throat down at the Cotton Bowl and you just didn't. But is that something that you just have to is that like the final installment of culture, just in terms of being able to go and take something from someone?
I think it comes. look, I think all that stuff comes from Brent during the week. But the fact is, when the game starts, they have an offensive coordinator that isn't aggressive. They have, a defense that gives up too many plays in the secondary. They don't have great pass rushers, and maybe they would if R. Mason Thomas was healthy and they play. Did PJ play a single down today?
Yeah, he played quite a bit actually today.
I guess he just wasn't that noticeable.
Yeah, I mean their whole pass rush wasn't very noticeable. I mean even on the 4th and 6, they got zero pressure. Allowed Bean to sit back there and deliver on that big play.
Yeah, it seemed like he was sitting back there the entire day, just picking whatever he wanted. And when they did get pressure,
he took off.
He took off, or he threw it away.
Look, I will stand by Brent Venables. I still think he's the answer, but
yeah,
I think so much time has been spent building the culture off the field and in the locker room. They just haven't built that culture of winning on the football field yet, where we're going to go out and beat your ass. I think they still kind of have 1 foot in and 1 foot out.
I completely agree with that, 100%. And I think that next week should be a rallying point.
If this program is taking a step in the right direction, they go beat OSU's ass next week.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, they suck it up. They listen to all the bitching from everybody on the outside telling them that they're no better than they were last year, and they go and get better.
Because I still don't believe OSU's a good football team. I just don't buy it.
7-7 with 3 minutes left in Stillwater, and under what I am told is a monsoon.
3 minutes before halftime?
3 minutes in the first.
Okay.
Here's the thing with OSU. OU should be able to score points on them. Just like today, they should have been able to move the ball a lot better than they did against this Kansas defense.
That's such a problem, though. I mean, that was like, it's like 2 straight weeks they've faced defenses that have massive deficiencies in some form or fashion, and Jeff Lebby has not taken advantage of that.
And and that's the thing is, I don't think it's defenses all of a sudden figuring OU out. I think it's OU just shooting themselves in the foot because they do so much dumb shit on offense.
It's just, it's mind blowing that, I just keep going back to what you brought up in the instant reaction, and we've already talked about it on the podcast. But I love Gavin, but the end around on 3rd and 3 when you're running the ball right at him, it doesn't make any sense. And even if I would take anything outside of that end around.
How do they not get Jaden Gibson more involved?
I think it's an overall trust thing with just about every position on that offense.
Also, how's Nick Anderson not on the field on the final play? Did you guys notice that?
I thought
Gibson was, but Jaden wasn't.
To the end zone,
or Gibson was,
your 2 big
but
bodies
Anderson
out there.
Wasn't. Yeah.
What'd you say, Kerry?
I said Gibson was, but Anderson wasn't, right, on the final play.
And I also thought, I'm not going to sit here and criticize the final play because it's whatever.
It is what it is.
But I was saying in the press box, I'd actually throw it short of the goal line and then try and push whoever it is in, because you're not going to, they had everybody in the end zone.
Didn't the Chiefs do that one year with Tyreek Hill? Threw
something
it to him
like
short
that.
on a Hail Mary.
It's a tough play because you're at the 20 or whatever. It's like throwing it up in the end zone with 8 guys for Kansas. I would have just thrown it 2 yards short. But
go like Mighty Ducks and form a wedge in front of him.
Should have ran the flying V.
When they completed it to Brennan Thompson, I was like, holy shit, they're going to win this game.
I did too, but then I looked up and there was 21 seconds left, and I was like, okay.
That 55 seconds went so fast.
Oh, yeah.
Jalil Farouk, 3 receptions, 11 yards today. He had
and a fumbled kickoff
in a row.
This is something that should never happen. I don't care. Jalil Farouk had 2 more carries than he had receptions. That's
fumbled carry,
not right.
Kickoff, yeah. It's another one of those toys that Jeff Lebby loves to play with that doesn't really move the needle.
It would be a little bit different too if we were talking about getting the ball into a guy's hand that's going to go win the or compete for the Blitnikoff.
CD Lamb.
Or I like Jalil Farouk. He's not that guy.
Yeah.
George is like your story when everybody wanted to compare him to Deebo Samuel, and you had to bite your tongue. It's like he's not Deebo Samuel. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it goes back to, I think they just need to simplify things, like do what works. And maybe that sounds so dumb, but it's like they have certain run plays that are working. Stick to, like, run it up the gut. Stop doing this sweep shit, trying to get to the edge. Like, it's not working. And then, Drake stoops over the middle, Farouk out on the edge. Like, it just seems like they're just trying to do all this stuff that just doesn't work. Like, keep it simple, stupid. Like, I don't get why they do some of the stuff they're doing. Like, they get too cute with it.
They need to give him the index card. Bring Lincoln Riley. I'm sure Lincoln Riley still has some index cards around there. You can put all your plays on one index card. That's all you get to take up to the box. You don't get anything else.
You know what's crazy? Like, Kansas started the game with all that misdirection shit, but they were literally just running the ball. They just used so much window dressing, and it was complicated looking, but you'll go back and watch that. Like, they didn't really separate themselves at all. Like when Kansas was at their best, they just let Jason Bean run around and find guys. Like, at some point, you just have to find ways to let your players make plays.
It's also definitely not the reason they lost today. But I thought the rain delay couldn't have happened at a worse time. No. And I know they came out and played really well after it on that first drive when they went in and scored and finished it off. But I thought, like, after you score, then you get the 3 and out, you're driving again. I just thought it kind of
physically really dominating them at that point.
Here's where this is what I'll say. I think halftime came at the wrong time.
That's fair.
They had the momentum, and there was discussion of them shortening halftime. I think OU would have benefited from them shortening halftime.
Is that an NCAA? Like,
no, there's no rule on it.
Oh, really?
Both teams just have to agree to it.
Agree?
Yeah.
So it's whatever. If one team won't agree, they just have to do the halftime.
Because if OU just gets the ball back right after Kansas went down and scored a field goal, I think OU would have gone down and scored a touchdown. Which they did. They had 50 seconds, remember, and they just ran the ball and they ran the clock out. But
which I don't like the way that the half was with 50 seconds left. I don't really mind that.
Well,
I'm being told that from a super secret source, the great Max Olson. Kansas ate Uncrustables during the delay. What did OU have? That's a good question. They should have smoked meth.
Probably Teddy Grahams and Capri Sun.
Well, I think Tawi Walker may have got like a steroid shot because he came out and was just unbelievable after the delay.
You'll probably. I don't know if we'll do a Sights and Sounds this week. We probably shouldn't, but we might, just because I thought the way that he was getting up every time that he was getting murdered. Tawi Walker.
If he doesn't get hurt, I think they win the game too.
I mean, you have to, because one guy's not bringing him down. Like 3 or 4 guys were having to hit him. I don't know how he got back up.
Well, if you'll notice, like, the Kansas players were taking the brunt of that too. They had guys falling out left and right.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he is just incredible to a certain extent. It's weird, man. I have no idea, though. It's obviously a very disappointing performance today, but at the same time, I do think that, like, we were being completely naive and thinking that they were going to run the table. I don't think that that's a reality.
I think we thought, and I think the fans thought, that there was going to be another shoe to drop.
Sure.
And I think most people just didn't want it to be Bedlam.
Sure.
But now that it's happened, it was going to happen at some point. I think we all knew that. But now it is, can you get yourself up off the canvas?
Well, I mean, if you can't get up next week for a game that is going to be talked to, I would think it's going to be one of the bigger bedlams in recent memory, just because of everything that's going into it, with OU leaving and it, probably being the last time in a long, long time. If you can't get up for that, it's kind of like the Texas game. If you can't get up for something like that, I mean, you probably should just pack up your shit and get out.
Well, I mean, the whole thing is OU is still in the driver's seat as long as Texas is right there as a one-loss team. So you got to stay a one-loss team to guarantee you're going to make it. And beating Oklahoma State would give them their second loss in conference. So they would be out as long as you win out. You got to win out to get into the Big 12 championship basically now.
Yeah. It's do or die every week. And, I mean, it probably should have been before.
Well, it might have been do or die to make it into the CFP.
Yeah, sure. But, I mean, they're so far away from that. It's not
They're
even
not
funny.
ready for that now.
No. And I think in all hard hearts, everybody knew that. Like, from what that shit was a year ago, you don't just turn into just a spectacular football team because of some pregame speeches and good leadership. I do think it's going to be really interesting this week, how they kind of pick themselves up off the floor with the leadership. Like, this is a big week for the Danny Stutzmans of the world. And
It's a big week for Dylan Gabriel. I mean, I thought his comments after the game were interesting.
what did he say? I didn't see.
He was just very he's definitely upset. He was very short with us, but he said, we're going to find out what we're made of,
Have they fallen in love with running him too much? Like,
Probably.
I thought the stuff that in the Texas game, yes, there was some cold runs, but it came to him. Like, the game kind of came to him.
I also
and
think he's getting a little antsy. I think he's getting antsy in the pocket.
Sure. Well, when you don't know who's in, they can sit there and say that it doesn't matter who the five are in front of them. I don't think that it's a coincidence since Oklahoma State started, kind of solidifying themselves up front, and they made some changes out of that South Alabama game, and then out of the bye week. It's not a coincidence that they got some continuity up on the front of the offensive line, and all of a sudden they're running the ball really well.
We're going to see. Bedlam next week. It's going to be a huge one. It's going to be all the buzz. I don't know that there'll ever be a Bedlam. Well, there won't be past this, but this will be one of the most anticipated Bedlam games. It's the last time these two may ever play each other. Probably, I mean, they're going to play somewhere in the future. But this is every OSU fan's chance to get in their last laughs before OU, divorce them and goes to the SEC. I mean, this is huge for them, and OU better realize what they're up against because they're getting ready to walk into a buzzsaw next week. I mean, they're going to need to be on their Texas level if they're going to win that game. So we're going to talk a lot about that this week. By the way, one thing that didn't suck this weekend was your ride up to the game.
No, it was great. It's going to be really tested on the way back, Kerry. We are going to be driving through an absolute monsoon.
Well, I don't want to keep holding you guys up from getting on the road. But thanks to Ed Eskridge and Eskridge Lexus, they are our official travel partner. We're proud to have them, and they provided us with the Lexus GX today, which was what we took to Nashville as well for the not the same one, but same models.
Nobody takes care of their customers more. I mean, I dropped my car off to pick up the ride to come up here and needed an oil change. They took care of it. Everything is awesome.
Yeah, and we've had people, like I had a guy just text me, DM me, or text me actually, that his wife was looking for a special edition of a certain car, certain Lexus, and I told him, hey, go get with Ed. He'll take care of you, I promise. And I just got a message from him the other day saying, hey, just want to let you know Ed took care of us. So, all right, guys, I appreciate all the work today
Absolutely.
and throughout the weekend. It was we'll get more into the Boganowski trip that you guys took last night
sure.
as well. Video up on that on the Sooner Scoop editorial, the instant reaction up right now on the Sooner Scoop page, so go check that out as well. And we'll be back again Monday for the roundup, the game review, whatever we want to do there with Josh McQuistion. So looking forward to that, and it's going to be an interesting week, folks. So Eddie, George, appreciate you guys. I'm Kerry. We'll be back again next week after Bedlam for another edition of the Eskridge Lexus Postgame Podcast right here on Soonerscoop.com.